Do you read me over?
Be advised, you're coming in weak and unreadable.
Say again, Com Tower. This is Pacho. Do you read me over?
Pacho, this is Com Tower. I read you Lima Charlie.
Com Tower, Com Tower. Request permission to launch and commence the field op. Over.
Stand by. Pacho, permission granted. I say again, permission granted.
Roger that. Launching podcast in 3, 2. You are now entering the field op with your host, Pacho Correa, Chief Warrant Officer 3, United States Marine Corps retired. Get some. Hurrah! Get some, all right. What's going on, everybody? Friday night's Eve, baby Friday, but goddamn, it's almost the weekend. We got a really good show for you. I'm trying to play myself for the folks who are watching the show through the phone, right here on the frame right here for the mobile phone. Hey, anyways, getting back to what we were doing, we got an amazing show for you, an amazing guest with a really, I guess today it's a little bit of a more serious rather than our lighthearted kind of show that we have every once in a while. But hey, when was the last? Let me ask you all this: if there was a way where you could find out and somewhat tell the future as to in regards to your finance, where you are right now, where you're sitting at currently financially, and where you could be, should be, let me know. What I do is I work with veteran service members as well as transitioning service member, putting strategies together as it pertains to your thrift savings plan, along with your VA claims and benefits, putting those things together so that money works for you and protect your family. Because unfortunately for the last, 4, 10, 15, 20 years while you were in the service, we were being helped by the mean green machine and spoon-fed in regards to putting all these things for us together. And when you get out, we kind of end up like, hey, what am I going to do next? And what do I do with all these things? I can help you with that because I've been there. I sat on your seat and I went through some angst and pains as it pertains to transition out of the service. So wouldn't it make sense to put these things and implement them? Because we can't prevent life is going to happen. We just can control certain things and certain outcomes. So it's better to do it now while you're still young, but it's never too late. So give me the opportunity and I can show you. We have a conversation, no commitments, no pressure, no nothing. And at the end of the day, you just walk out of there with a much better perspective as it pertains to your finances. And the other thing is, I also help veterans. As a matter of fact, today we were talking with a friend of mine who, for the last 20 plus years, had never applied for VA claims and benefits. Using the ChatGPT AI that I've trained, I've helped him put in for that, and we got the process going. So regardless when it was, it's never too late, everybody. So apply for your benefits. As a matter of fact, there's some really good things being rewritten as it pertains to us when we apply for VA claims and benefits. So take advantage of them while somewhat things are a little better. So go ahead and apply. If you have any questions, I'll be more than glad to, it's all in the show description. My link tree is right there. I'll give you a free 1-hour strategy session, and I'll teach you how to fish so that you can learn how to apply for these benefits yourself. In the event of my absence, at least you have the knowledge and the way to do it. All right. So that's kind of my soapbox, everybody. So listen, in this show, we're here. We all support the Constitution, the rights that the Constitution brings to us. So if you like what you hear and you want to support myself, your local podcaster, like, subscribe, and follow. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere else. I mean, you can pretty much reach me anywhere. You can also, and if you don't like it, that's okay too. We can agree to disagree. I mean, this sexy ass accent isn't for everybody. So you can go ahead and swipe left and go to sitchradio.com and get with Brian Colburn and get some amazing information from there. And if you want to be a podcaster, he'll also guide you on that aspect as well. So again, like, subscribe, and follow, and hit me up. All right. So I think that's pretty much all the pleasantries here. Leo served as an 03. My next guest, his name is Leo Beach. He is the founder and president of Isaac Loves His Hooman. He'll tell you more about it. Leo served as an 0311 with 3.5, but his story goes a little bit far beyond his time in the uniform. From, obviously we all have all kinds of baggage that we bring in we what before the service, and obviously we bring that on to the service. So he's faced many challenges that a lot of us never speak about. I too have a similar story to his, especially in regards to us men, right? But this isn't a story of what happened to him. It's in regards to what he did after, because trauma and the things that happen to us in life really don't define us if we let it, right? So he's the founder, as I mentioned, he's the founder of a nonprofit called Isaac Loves His Hooman, and he's dedicated to providing service dogs to veterans and first responders, and also bringing awareness to men's health as well as PTSD. So we're going to talk about trauma, silence, healing, and how once one service dog named Isaac basically became the catalyst for his mission that now is helping others to find a way forward. So this is a conversation basically about survival and what it means to turn pain into an awesome purpose. So with that being said, hey Leo, welcome to the show, brother. Semper Fi.
Semper Fi to you as well, Pancho. Honored and grateful for the opportunity to be here with you this evening and doing this and getting this message out to everybody tonight. So yeah, let's get started. Let's tell this story.
Well, hey, let me ask you this. You obviously you served as an 03 Humpalot, 0311 for 35 at Lima Company and obviously H&S Company. Your background, you're pretty much from Flint, Michigan. Is that right?
Yep, born and raised in Flint, Michigan, and finally sprouted my wings when I left for boot camp in 1993 to start my time in the Marine Corps.
Okay. Now, are you a legacy? In other words, did anybody in your family serve in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, in fact, a couple of relatives are Marines. My dad's a Vietnam veteran Marine, and my dad's cousin Harry Martin, we lost him last November. He was 20 years old when he climbed Mount Suribachi, and Harry Martin did 23 or 24 years and retired as Vietnam was starting to ramp up in the mid 60s. He retired as a first sergeant and did World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, and his time in the Marine Corps. So yeah, and a couple other relatives, Marines as well, a handful of other branch veterans in the family as well. So pretty strong military representation in my family, and a good bunch of jarheads in the mix.
Did you ever feel like, oh man, I guess, if he did it, I got to do it, or I guess when was the realization like, hey, you know what, I want to eat crayons, I want to be a jarhead, let's go.
Yeah. So my whole life, ever since I can remember as a little kid, I always wanted to be a Marine, and I don't know if it was, subconsciously that dad's a Marine, so you got to be a Marine so you and dad can be equals when you grow into manhood someday. But there was always a drive in my heart and my soul to join the Marine Corps and earn the title and be able to put on that set of dress blues. And with that, I had the recruiters at my mom and dad's house when I was 17, graduating high school, and my dad finally came down and said, hey, look, I'll sign this so you can go to boot camp next month before your 18th birthday. But if I do and you go, one condition, you got to find a new house to come home to on leave, because you won't be welcome at my dinner table anymore. You need to go to college. You need to do this, and this. And, the Marine Corps is not for you. And, understandably so. My dad was in the Marine Corps from 66 to 68 during Vietnam. And that left a lot of ugly tastes in the Marine Corps' mouth that time of the conflict in the Vietnam era. And, I'm sure, like other combat veterans, my dad, did not see the glory part of the Marine Corps lifestyle and everything like that. So, and at his honor, honoring him and being my father at 17 years old, I healed and, went to college. And a few years later, I took a year off before I started college, went to college. After earning 80 some credits, I ended up failing out of my last semester because I just was not focused, not motivated, and more of the party lifestyle was what the college experience was for me, and not applying myself towards any degree. And I walked in the recruiter station that February with my failed out report card right after spring break was over, and it was a gunny at the desk in the recruiting station a little after 5 that evening, all by himself. And I walked in and I said, Gunny, how soon can you have me to boot camp? And he said, well, you know what my rank is, so you know a little something about the Marine Corps, and he started opening his desk drawer, to pull out all the sales pitch material. And I said, Gunny, just let me stop you right there. Where's the contract? What do I got to sign? How soon can you have me out of here? And he goes, well, don't you want to hear? I says, no. I says, I want to go infantry. I said, I want to be a Marine. And when can you have me out of here? And he goes, well, let me ask you, are you running from anything? You got a girl pregnant? You got the
Yeah.
cops after you? I said, nope, none of that. I said, and I pulled out my failed report card out of my pocket. And I said, here's why. I said, I failed out of my parents' vision for me to be a college graduate someday. And, obviously after a couple of semesters, here's where I'm at. And my lifelong dream is to become a Marine. So again, when can you have me out of here? And 10 minutes later, I swore in and went home and had a little family meeting with my parents and my siblings. And 2 weeks later, I shipped out to MCRD and enjoyed screaming at airplanes every time they took off and landed for 13 weeks.
So, that's and it's pretty funny. I mean, and I can see how obviously your dad, and from when that time frame that he came in, obviously, it was a very thankless period of time, coming home, being called all kinds of different names, not having the resources or being all supportive. So, I mean, from an understanding time frame standpoint, I mean, you got to give the guy, a little bit of credit. Obviously, he just didn't want you to go through the hardship that he must have gone through as part of coming back.
Well,
go ahead.
Just one last little caveat I'll add to that. The irony to that whole thing about dad withholding me at 17, the night before I shipped out to boot camp, mom and dad had a little going away party for me. And after all the friends and relatives went home and the party was over, dad was like, hey, let's get in the car. We're going to have one more cold one before you ship out, and his father, son, last little hoo-ha, and I said, all right. So we got in the car, and as we're backing out of the driveway, I look over and he's starting to tear up, and I'm like, hey, come on, Dad, what the hell's going on? I says, I'm going to the same gun club you're a fraternity member of, and I'm going to be with the best trained people in the world to do whatever's asked of us. And I said, I'm going to be just fine, it'll be just fine. And he's like, that's not what I'm worried about, damn it. He says, up until right now, it's been you and me against your mom and your two sisters. And now it's going to be me with my back against the wall against the three of them. So there again, I was like, well, good luck with that. I'll see you when I come home on leave,
Yeah. Wow. No, and that's pretty cool, man. So, here you are in the Marine Corps, you hit the fleet, you're seeing all this brotherhood, the structure, and I guess you could say you're a boot, you're doing your thing. And I mean, so kind of getting into some of the topics of the show. I mean, you had a pretty significant event, as you came in. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I went to boot camp in February '93, graduated May 14th of '93, and then hit. At the time, you had to go to MCT, even though you were an SOI, MLS, right. Or yeah. So did MCT, SOI, and the end of August, day after my birthday, I hit the fleet and got to the fleet and settled into the fleet. And then the following spring, we were on pre-deployment leave to go join the 31st MUSOC over in Okinawa for a 6-month sea service deployment, and ended up it was pre-deployment leave window. I went to home for a week or so and come back, and of course, that's kind of casual company time on pre-deployment leave window before you actually make the deployment. And we a handful of platoon mates and I went out Friday night, went down to the Del Mar E Club, and I started making time with this young gal that I met there and had a few drinks with her and hit the dance floor a little bit. And towards the end of the evening, it was let's get out of here, and we got a cab and we're headed back to her place in Oceanside. And the last thing I remember was going through the drive-thru at the El Pollo Loco, and I was roofied and ended up getting gang raped by 5 individuals that were, less than stand-up citizens of the community, and the next morning when I came to in the apartment and realized what had happened to me, that also brought back a bunch of childhood trauma from getting sexually assaulted from a cousin from the ages 11 to 14 that my mind had somehow suppressed
Right.
from the ages of 14 to 24 when the second incident occurred while I was at Delmar that night. Um, and again, our minds are very powerful. I forgot all those details from my childhood for 10 years. And then they all of a sudden came right back into the front of my mind, trying to get the hell out of that apartment the next day after the abuse occurred the night before.
Did you, and I'm really sorry that happened. I mean, I too, as a young child, had something similar happen to me in regards. I was molested by somebody that was very close, to our family. I mean, we knew him, and having to work as one of the last billets, it just happened. It's crazy how life kind of comes full circle. I ended up one of the billets I ended up serving that after I pinned out warrant officer was sexual abuse response coordinator, and it's a lot of things that I learned was really eye opening. Is that one, it's somebody really close to you. It's not the stigma like in the parking lot, the guy with the ski mask, whatever. It's I mean, in your event was somebody that you just met. You kind of built somewhat of a relationship, and I'm talking about the person at the Del Mar E Club, but you would have never thought that, hey, hey, today I'm just gonna go ahead and this is gonna happen to me and whatever, you know what I'm saying? So you had built some type of rapport. And I'm asking this question with a reason. Did you did you tell anybody when you came back to base what the event, the post events after, what happened?
No, not at all. I mean, all the broken ego part of the human emotion factored in where I had fear, embarrassment,
Mm.
all those different emotions, the negative emotions we
Shame.
have, shame, guilt. You're a Marine. How in the hell did you let this happen to
Yeah,
you?
I'm a man.
And
I'm a
and
jarhead. I'm fucking,
and yeah,
Marine.
exactly. And what are my platoon mates are gonna think about this? Now I'm the wimpy weak in the team, no longer where my status was at the time, if there was any. And again, yeah, I had all those emotions and getting back to the childhood stuff too, I think a lot of it also played into not only the environment I was in at the time, because
Hmm.
everybody knows the Marine Corps, you got to be some true grit and tough as nails to exist in an infantry battalion in the Marine Corps, just
I
because of the
bet.
nature of the job,
And
and
especially during that time frame too. I mean,
yeah,
80s,
sure,
90s into
sure. But when I was 11 years old and that trauma started to happen to me as a child, I did not have a voice to ask my mom and dad to help me make it stop. And I firmly believe it's because of the stigma that our society plagues men with and has for generations in all of my lifetime, at least that I know of, where society says that a man can't have feelings, a man can't cry, show emotion, ask for help, things like that. And a man's just supposed to suck it up, bottle it up, pack it down deep, and get ready for the next 80 things you got to pack down deep for the rest of the day today before you end your day. And as an 11-year-old boy, I knew subconsciously that I was going to be a man in a few more years, and men don't do this. Men don't ask for help. Men don't cry. And I really believe, and through some of my healing processes, um, I've discovered that that's what stopped me from being able to ask my mom and dad for help as a young boy. And then fast forward 10 more years, I'm in the Marines at 24 years old. The same kind of assault occurs, and I can't have a voice to ask for help. Was it society's fault again with that stigma? Aside from the machismo stuff we just talked about being in the Marine Corps, but again, I want to add too, I have zero regrets about joining the Marine Corps and earning the title and getting to be the honor of calling myself a Marine, even though the darkest thing that's happened to me in my life occurred as a Marine in the Marine Corps. I still love the Marine Corps to death. And part of my healing journey is sharing this message so that we can prevent this, or at least give other Marines and other fellow veterans and other branches all hands on deck, that we can at least give them a voice and know that they can have a voice to ask for help and get the help that they need with the demons they're facing in their life.
And that must have been rough, you carrying that weight. I mean, it, me, it wasn't until I was in my 40s. I mean, I'll be turning 53 this year. Um, it wasn't until my 40s that I actually told my mom what had happened to me as a kid. She had no clue, and obviously she felt super guilty. And I said, "Hey, look, it wasn't your fault. There's absolutely nothing that you maybe back then, but obviously we carry this weight, and along our other things." Let me ask you this,
I
man. And I mean, what did that silence feel like for you? Just carrying all those things that, again, you kind of throw on, because I did it for me. You throw on that guilt, that shame, all. I mean, what must have felt? That must have been terrible for you.
um it was a heavy burden for sure. And in fact, one example in one of my healing sessions I had been burdened by something that happened between an uncle and I. One of my uncles helped me out with some stuff, and I didn't get a chance to get that squared away before he passed away. And I blame myself for not being there the last few months of his life and stuff like that, with where life had taken me. And
Hmm.
when I forgave myself for that burden, it literally felt like I was levitating off the chair I was sitting in, because of how much weight lifted off of my body and my conscience, and I carried that kind of tension. I told people I used to walk around looking over my shoulder, like I was running from the cops or something constantly. I had that kind of anxiety constantly, and even whether we were in Camp Pendleton or on a ship in the middle of the Pacific, or back home with family and friends, or even up until 2018, when I hit my rock bottom and started healing, laying my head down in my own house, I couldn't sleep. I wasn't comfortable, because that anxiety just ate at me incessantly. And typical dumb American male, I tried to drink and use controlled substances to mask all that and make me forget about it while I was thinking about it right now, and we'll deal with it tomorrow once we're sobered up. Let's just crawl into a bottle of whiskey or something, and it'll go away. Well, after 24 years of trying that, it didn't go away. And it left me in a very, very dark, dismal place in October of 2018. Um,
Wow. So let me ask you this. Obviously, now we're kind of getting to, because you had a turning point in your life, and you realize, hey, obviously what I've been doing before is not working, and obviously, here's where this animal comes into your life and brings you stability and trust, and obviously, because that's what they do, they bring us emotional grounding. Um, how did Isaac change your day to day life, bro?
so so I got Isaac a few months before my that we'll talk about here shortly, my darkest day in October of 18. I had Isaac a few months prior to that. And Isaac immediately brought structure into my everyday, because the depression from the PTSD and all the running that had been, I couldn't. I was self-employed at the time. I worked 15 years in the oil field prior to that, and I was self-employed, living in a college town, doing rental maintenance and failing every time I turned a corner because of where I was mentally and how broken I was. And Isaac came in my life and immediately brought structure, because dog needs to eat. Dog Dog needs to go to the bathroom. Dog needs to go for a walk. Dog needs to get their hair brushed. Dog needs a bath. There's chores and activity that no matter how you're feeling, no matter what happens with daylight savings time or whatever, that dog's going to need to have breakfast and dinner. So the structure that was missing from my day to day came back immediately having that dog at my side. And then, the other things, one of the things I kind of formulated, and I'm using this analogy to retell part of that we keep seeming to forget about in our later on as we grow into adulthood and the human condition, but what our purpose is on this earth. And I use the analogy of a dog because a dog does this 200% of the time that they're awake. The only time they don't do this is when they're asleep. But a dog lives in what I call the 3 L's. They love unconditionally, they live in their present, and they live selflessly for who and what they love. That's what you and I are supposed to be doing for ourselves and each other in this human condition while we're here on earth. And we know this as kids. That's why if you look at kids, kids don't know racism, kids don't know any negative parts of the human condition because it's all learned behavior
It's a
from their
learned behavior.
environment
Yeah.
that they come up in. Exactly.
Right.
So again, we all start out the same stepping stone when we're born into this human condition with no conscience, no ego, and nothing but a heart and soul full of happiness, joy, and love, and the ability to have free will. And no matter what our background is coming into this human condition, we all come into it that way. Dogs live those 3 L's with every waking breath of their life. They don't bring judgment, they don't bring shame, they don't bring ridicule. All they bring is the 3 L's. And the old saying, you can beat a dog, and as long as you feed it, it'll still let you pet it. Dogs are that loyal to we don't deserve dogs because of their loyalty. And again, the healing power that brought to the table with my healing journey, and it was a little more extravagant than that with Isaac, because like I said a few minutes ago, I had Isaac a few months before October of 18. On a weeknight, I hit my rock bottom, and as I was putting a pistol in my mouth to see what the other side of not being in his human condition was all about,
Right.
Isaac literally stopped me from finishing that activity by jumping into my lap with his head in my lap and his leash in his mouth. And I don't know, without some divine intervention, don't remember hearing any of the noise, but to get his leash off the shelf in the adjacent room over the counter, he broke a bunch of stuff, knocked the glass blender off the counter and shattered it and all this stuff. And I didn't hear any of that noise. I was so lost into my rabbit hole of depression that night and like I said, he startled me back to reality by dropping his head and a leash in my lap. And we went for a 3-hour walk that night. And when we got back, I got him settled in, hit the bed. I slept for like an hour and a half till the alarm went off, but that's like the first time I had slept in months prior to that. And I had isolated myself from every semblance of love. I quit talking to my parents, my siblings, friends that I have out here where I live, things like that. And Isaac was the only form of unconditional love that I had that night at my darkest hour. And the next day, I had the courage to, number one, do the hardest thing I've done as a human being on this earth, is look myself in the mirror and call myself out for the last 24 years of running away from my demons and not healing and starting to heal from them, where it left me the night before and how it screwed up everything. Because I literally lost everything within a month or so of that night. I was homeless for a handful of years
Right.
and stuff like that as fallout from all this. And at
Hmm.
the end of the day, sorry, that thought just went out the window.
It's okay. So
Um,
let me ask. So I mean, obviously, Isaac brought a lot of, he brought you back and everything. So I guess what made you decide to turn your, that period, or yeah, that time frame. What made that turn into a personal healing? That personal healing into a mission. What led to, hey, you know what?
so
This dog can do this for me. He can do it for me. Can you sum that up in,
yeah,
you know,
so yeah, I had Isaac after that night. The next day I got up, I could look myself in the mirror, called myself out on the garbage of running, and desperately reached out for the help that I needed at the time. And
Right.
I got that lost, broken little 11-year-old boy back. And from that day forward, I kept gaining more and more of the same healing energy from Isaac with what we just talked about dogs bringing to the table. And with that said, the more I explored all the different options of therapy out there, because I've done counseling with therapists, and I've done
Right.
work
Right.
with a Reiki master. I've got into meditation, both the Western medicine mental health options as well as alternative healing options. I've explored them all. And number one, I want to share that specifically because the takeaway from that is every one of us is unique in our own healing. What works for me might not do best for you. And so if you want to start healing a part of your life, you need to find what's going to work best and fit best for your healing journey. And again, it might not look like mine. And so again, that's why I explored all the options, because one might not work, and then where you're going to be at the dead end, starting at ground zero again without any place to fall back on, any place to get relief. So I explored them all. And with that process, the more I got into my healing journey, about a year and a half into the healing journey from that night, it dawned on me that I too, like I mentioned a minute ago, need to practice and live the 3 Ls. I need to live selflessly for others. And it clicked, and I was like, Isaac, you brought so much healing and love into my life. We need to share this kind of medicine in form of therapy with the rest of the veteran community. And the light came on, and we started Isaac Loves His Hooman. And not only are we dedicated on focusing our efforts to get service dogs placed with veterans and first responders, but we're also here to provide awareness, education, and all the other variables involved with getting people up to speed on what's available in the healing world, and especially with men today, because like we talked a minute ago, our society is so terrible with men and healing that I mean, half the crap we deal with domestically as a society probably wouldn't be here if men could ask for help and process and be able to breathe and sleep at night and have a calm in their heart and their soul. Why all of a sudden at 17 and 18 I lost that ability that I had as a little boy, you know but
Yeah.
again, we need to have conversations like this, because somebody told me once the other day, they said, wow, it's really refreshing to hear about this from the other side, because what happened to me normally comes from a female perspective,
Right.
and
Right.
especially in the military. But I'm not the only one. Another fellow 3-5 Marine that was there the time I was had a very similar occurrence around the same time, or within a year or so of it happening to me. And again, I can't believe we're the only two Marines that this ever happened to in the last 30 years.
No,
And so
I'm pretty
again,
sure. No, go ahead.
you know and again, like you shared too, you have some of these kind of vices or things from your past that you had to face in your healing as well. And the beautiful thing about this to me as well, is the more I talk and share and tell my story, you would
Yes.
not believe the turnaround of men coming back and saying, hey, that happened to me and my little brother when we were kids. It was our uncle, you know and that is so, again, it's beautiful, because number one, they're taking the hardest first step, which is acknowledging your pain and your trauma, to the healing process. And if my story can help bring that light into somebody's darkness, we're winning already, you know?
Yes. No, and look, listen, you can't control what happened, but you can control what happens next. So, what would you and right quick, because we're getting here to the bottom of the of our time frame. What what would you tell somebody who feels stuck right now and it's kind of and they've had some trauma in their life, some sexual trauma that they went through? I guess you could say for the men, because women, for the most part, they tend to, being more forthcoming. But if or anybody out there that's struggling with having this dark secret looming over them, what would you tell them right quick?
Yeah, and the sexual assault trauma or any trauma, I don't care where your trauma comes from. Trauma's
Right,
trauma.
right,
And it's all just like you said, it's all in how we step through it and handle and process it to make or break us. And what I would say to anybody that's caught, like you were describing, and struggling, number one, I'll say, I love you. You are seen, you are worthy, and you are deserving of all the opportunities to heal your mind and heart and soul and to be able to sleep good at night. As a human being, all of us are deserving of that. And anybody that doesn't think that they deserve it, because a lot of times people get into like Stockholm syndrome and all that with an abuser in the household or whatever.
right, right,
You do deserve to heal no matter what anybody else tells you. And once you get to where you take that first step and look in the mirror and say, I don't like what I see, I need to make some changes, you've already got this battle halfway beat, because that's the hardest and most monumental step in this whole process. And the rest of it seems to fall into place once you start focusing on changing yourself and bettering yourself for yourself, because you have to be able to better yourself for yourself, because I can't do it for you. You can't do it for me. These are individual journeys that we have to have in our life. Your significant other can't do it for you. Your children can't do it for you. Your parents can't. You have to decide to do this for yourself, just like an alcoholic or a drug addict. There's nothing
right.
anybody in your life can do for you until you decide that you want to make changes with yourself and your life. And once you do, it's going to be the most beautiful thing that you've ever experienced. And I'm here to tell you, and I'm living proof, because I went from the majority of my adulthood stuck in existing in survival mode to where now I'm finally starting to flourish again and live my life with my healing process well underway a few years now. And it's possible, it's real, and it's worth every loss it's going to cost you. It's worth everything it's going to take out of you. It's worth it, and it'll
Hey,
be the
Leo,
best thing you can do for yourself.
no, and as we're getting pretty much here to the time, if people want to find out more or looking to get into the process of possibly getting a service animal and everything, where can they find you, brother?
Obviously, they can find us at isaacloveshishooman.org. And also, we have a Isaac Loves His Hooman Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok accounts. So you can follow us there. And we do have a YouTube channel, Isaac Loves His Hooman. And in the immediate future, the YouTube channel as well as the social media platforms are going to start getting a larger influx of content and more as I develop more content and everything for um, those platforms. And there will be lots to follow with future puppies and the training process and the training process of service dogs, a learning platform about mental health awareness and service dogs as well on those platforms. So, and we're looking forward to any and all support for our mission that we can, because again, this is a different form of therapy and healing, and it is beyond measure what it brings to the table compared to some of the other options that are available to the veterans and first responders out there.
Yeah, brother. I just want to take the time to one first, simplify, thank a fellow Marine. You're doing amazing things out there, and I just want to thank you also for being super transparent and vulnerable in front of not only in front of me, but in front of our listeners. And I know that while these things that happen to us, we didn't allow it to define us. By you sharing your resilience and showing to everybody, hey, look, despite all these things, I'm still here. I mean, we truly appreciate it, brother. So thanks so much, and we'll definitely want to keep tabs on you and your progress. And maybe next time we can have Isaac join the show as well.
uh, Sadly, we lost Isaac a year ago, coming up in
Oh
June.
no.
Yeah, the 10th of June last year, 2025, Isaac crossed the Rainbow Bridge on me. I had him 7.5 years, and but that's just as the healing from that loss added on to the continued healing journey I'm underway with. Um, that was just more incentive and drive and motivation as that healing unfolded to, now we have a legacy to continue with the charity,
Right,
not just a guy and his service dog started something to put a good foot in front of the other.
right.
So we really have to live up to that. And, Isaac touched many people's lives. Everybody that we came into contact with all had nothing but positive things. In fact, my sister and I went to a spiritual retreat one weekend, and after a meditation session, not only did Isaac come over by me, but he went to each person individually, nose in a hand, nose in a lap, just to, hey, are you okay? You doing good? Things like that. The dog just brought light everywhere he went. And, I have to honor that legacy. In fact, one of my sister's colleagues, where I got Isaac through, she said the one thing she's going to miss when I let everybody know that Isaac passed last year, she said the one thing that she was going to miss the most about seeing your brother and Isaac when they came into the clinic here to visit was the light and the love that those two made between each other and shared with everybody around them. And that was such a blessing to hear that at that time, that another person saw that, just seeing what him and I did together.
Yeah. Well,
And so, yeah, we have a
he sounds like
legacy of.
no, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish
I
what
was
you're
just
gonna
going to
say.
say we got a legacy to honor in that regard, and we got a lot of brothers and sisters to help and lives to save.
Hell yeah. 100%, bro. Hey, Leo, thanks so much for what you're doing from the bottom of my heart. Keep up the good fight, brother. And obviously, we'll keep tabs on you, and we'll bring you back on the show and see where, who we connect you with and get you all spun up. So thanks so much for your service,
Absolutely.
brother. Semper Fi, and hoorah.
Separate.
Oh, my bad. Sorry about that. I got too quick on the trigger finger, um, and I put him in the back room. Sorry about that, Leo. Hey, everybody, look, as we're getting close to the hour, I just want to say thank you so much. Thanks to my guest. Thanks to, and he, here's another veteran doing amazing things, establishing a foundation to help our brothers and sisters. Doesn't matter what branch, because we're all one team, one fight. Also, he struggled through a lot of things, but yet he's resilient and he's here nowadays. So that being said, if you're struggling right now, you have a lot of resources, you have a lot of things that you can do, and a lot of people that you can reach. You can talk to me. Now you can talk to Leo. You can reach to his foundation, Military One Source, TRICARE, the VA hotline. I mean, do something and reach out to somebody, because at the end of the day, nobody wants you to be a statistic, and nobody wants you to basically commit suicide. Have a conversation with somebody, and if you haven't heard from a buddy, the last couple of weeks or months, reach out and just do a radio check and see how they're doing. All right. So I think this is a great place to index everybody. Don't forget to follow Leo and Isaac Loves His Hooman in all the different venues and on social media. So with that being said, everybody, I just want to say, Aistamas, Daisuke. See you next week. Ara, get some.